Okay, so welcome to this demonstration of how to do a layout box for an isometric. This is actually very simple. What we're going to do is start with a blank sheet of paper first. All right, we're going to create 4 separate sheets with this one piece of paper. All we're going to do is fold it, known as hamburg style. I know there's hot dog. This is the hamburg style. Let me just straighten this out here. All right, so we've got this on here. This looks good. All we've done, just fold this like this, and I'm going to use the overhead and talk us through this. So what I have over here is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, a 30, 60, 90 triangle. This is the base of the triangle. Okay, this is the hypotenuse of the triangle, and this is one of the legs of the triangle. What we're going to do is we're going to keep the base of the triangle on our baseline, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The base is always going to be on the baseline. No matter how this triangle sits, it's going to have the base of the triangle on the baseline. The next thing that we need is going to be our ruler, and we're only going to be using a 2-inch measurement for the layout box. Okay, everything else we do here, we might use other measurements, but just for the layout box, we're just going to be using a 2-inch measurement. Okay, I tend to use the center of the ruler, just makes it easier. So anywhere from 5 to 7 is 2, 6 to 8 is 2 inches. However you want to use it, but a 2-inch measurement is all you really need. Let's take that folded sheet of paper that I have here, and I'm going to lay out just a line. Okay, and I'm using a pencil, of course. And with this pencil, I make sure they have an eraser on it. Okay, so I'm just going to put a line at the bottom. This line at the bottom is going to be called my baseline. If you want to label this, you can. You don't necessarily have to, but if it makes it easier for you, you can. And notice the base of my triangle, and then this is my baseline down here. Okay, so this is my baseline. Okay, so that's what that is there, and I can actually zoom in so you can see that. Okay, the base of my triangle is on my baseline. All right, so there's my baseline right there. And what we're going to do is take the base of my triangle and always going to set the bottom part of the triangle itself right on that baseline. And a lot of times it's hard to see unless you get right over top of it. So if it makes it easier, get yourself right over top of it and take a look. And you're just going to estimate about the center of the paper. So notice, base of my triangle on my baseline, it's always going to be that way. And I'm going to put a line coming all the way from the top all the way to the bottom. Okay? And I'm just basically showing a nice 90-degree angle here. Okay, so if I were to step in, let me step in front of the camera here. What you're going to notice is that there is a 90-degree angle from the baseline here to this line here. So, okay, they intersect each other. That's what I want you to notice. They intersect each other, 90 degrees. Very, very important. Also, right here at the very bottom, I left a little bit of a space. You'll see why in a second, but I left a space so that it helps you create your 30-degree angles, and we're going to go over that right now. Okay, your 30-degree angle marks are going to be from, let's move this down for a second, base of my triangle, very low on my baseline. Make sure it's flat, okay, nice and straight. I'm gonna bring this over, bring it back 30 degrees, flip this over, do the same thing the other side, base of my triangle, okay, base of my triangle on my baseline. This takes a lot of precision work. It's not necessarily difficult, just have to be slow and patient with it. Okay, so I've created 2 30-degree lines, okay? Now, I'm going to use my ruler, and for the layout box, this is the only time that I'm using my ruler. I'm going to measure 2 inches from the center point. So from where they meet, I'm going to go 2 inches. So I'm starting at 6 in this case. I'm just going to go up to 4, and all I'm doing is just putting a dash. Okay, that's all I'm doing is just put a little dash right there, just so I know where that 2-inch mark is. Same with the 7-inch mark. Or, I'm sorry, the 7. I'm going to go to 5. Okay, that's 2 inches. And from this side, 2 inches. Okay. okay? If they're a little bit off, correct them now if you want to go ahead and remeasure them, because what's going to happen is later on when you project your lines back, it actually will be off at the top. And I think this line might be off here. I don't know. We'll check later. This line looks like it's perfect. I don't know. We'll check later. Okay? The closer you get it to that 2-inch mark, the more likely you're going to get a perfect cube in the end, that isometric. All right? So from here, I'm going to do a little more projections of my 30-degree line. So I'm going to start right here at this 2-inch mark. Base of my triangle is on my baseline, okay? I'm going to rest it right on my baseline. Slide this on over. As long as I'm perfectly on that baseline, bring it on back. Okay, so I have one line I brought on back from that 2-inch mark right there. I'll do the same thing. Base of my triangle is on my baseline. Base of my triangle is on my baseline. I can't say that enough. Base of the triangle on the baseline, bring it back. Okay? And if you notice, that is perfectly 30 degrees. Notice how these are parallel. Okay? And notice how these are parallel. Okay? They look like railroad tracks. If you look at them, they go back. Okay? The same distance apart. Now what I want to do is I want to find my next two lines by putting the base of my triangle on my baseline. Base of my triangle on my baseline. It's perfectly on there. Okay? Double check the measurement. Make sure it looks good. I'm going to go back. Okay? So there's that one side right there. I just went back. Perfectly 90 degrees to the baseline. The next one, I'm going to go back again. Base of my triangle is on my baseline. It's perfectly on my baseline at all times, okay? It's perfectly on my baseline. It's sitting on there. Okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. It needs to be sitting on that line. Base of the triangle is sitting on your baseline, okay? And it's very, very important. So from here, I'm just going to take this, project this on back. So I'll go from, project it up. From here to here. So now I have, you can see it's kind of like the corner of a box, it looks like. And that's exactly what we're trying to get. Now what we're going to do is from these corners that we have here, we're just going to project these lines on back. And let me talk you through this for a second. This line right here that we drew up, okay, this line right here, if for some reason it doesn't go all the way up, don't panic. We're going to erase this line anyway. Some students don't make the line far enough up. That's not a problem. It won't hurt anything in the end. But what is the problem is that if you don't have it go at least this far, because you need at least this much, this 2-inch line here. But back up here, don't worry about it. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to project this line. Base of my triangle is where? It's on my baseline. It's sitting on my baseline. I'm going to bring it back. Okay, so this brings it back here. And then, if we look, the base of my triangle is still on my baseline. Okay. I'll bring it down and look. Now if I zoom in on this and just take a look at it, it's a little bit off. Okay, it's a little bit off. That's actually not bad. If you have something like that, like I said, remember I said I thought how this side might be off a little bit? I was right, because when I measured it, I wasn't exactly perfect. All right, and see how this one's a little bit off? That's okay. That little bit off is not going to hurt you. The problem is that some students, they have their lines, they're not drawn the right distance. If you notice, okay, I'm going to bring this back out. If I make these measurements, perfectly 2 inches, this one, and this one, perfectly 2 inches, and I always leave the base of my triangle on my baseline, it'll be fine. Okay, this little bit off here at the top is not a big deal. Okay, because one of your measurements may have been off just a little bit, that's fine. All right, that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when they're completely off. Okay, and they're more than like 1/8 of an inch off. Okay, in this case, about 1/8 of an inch, you should be okay. Not a big deal. And that concludes how to make just the layout box with a little bit of error on the top.